What's up, guys? Happy New Year. It is the 1st of January 2022, and as you can see, we have a bit of a different setup today and probably for the next couple of weeks, just changing the environment a little bit and recharging those batteries so that we can go full steam ahead for the new year. So if you are not yet subscribed to the channel below, hit the subscribe button, click the notification bell. Make sure to follow me on Instagram and Twitter. The links are down below in the description too over here. So in today's video, we are going to do the usual. We're going to look at last month's predictions that I made on the 1st. And we are also going to look at predictions, not just for the next month, but potentially for the next year, because we have not just had the monthly close, we have had the quarterly close, the biannual close, and of course the yearly close too. So what lies ahead for the year? What do the charts tell us? I'm going to hop over into my computer. I'm going to go inside a little bit because it's a little bit echoey and noisy outside. And then let's go have a look at what the charts are telling us. Okay, so let's start out with the Bitcoin monthly returns as we usually do in this video on the 1st of the month. And you can see the month of December was actually red again. So it was negative 18.9%. So both November and December were red months, which is not in line with the 4-year cycle where we had it in 2013, we had the 4-year cycle top, and in 2017, we had the 4-year cycle top. So it is clear at this point that things are different. We had a negative November and negative December. Now, I do think that it's likely that now we are in a lengthening cycle, meaning that we still have the possibility of setting new highs this year in 2022, rather than the entire year being a bear market or a negative market. Because just like we didn't have that blow off top that we saw in 2013 and 2017, that would have been followed by a huge bear market because we had the parabolic up and then all the way back down. We didn't have that, okay? So because we didn't have the parabolic blow off top, we likely won't have that huge crash and decline that followed it in the previous two cycles. But that does mean that we still have the potential for a blow off top or maybe just a gradual rise higher. So just because it didn't happen yet in November and December does not mean the whole party is over and the whole bull run is over. Things are changing, the cycle is different, the market is different, it's evolving. So that is what we're going to look at today in this video too. So just wanted to point that out. November and December were both red, just like we saw in 2018 and 2019. But the interesting thing is then this was following the parabolic blow off top in 2017. So this makes sense here. We had smaller months, but not too far out actually from 2019, right? And you can see 2019 was obviously followed by a very good later half of 2020. So is that going to repeat again this year? I don't know. What I do think also is that there is serious potential for a stock market bear market in 2022. I don't know if that's going to happen for sure, of course, but we have to keep that in mind and be cautious with that because the stock market crashed in 2001. It crashed in 2008, 7 years later. 2015, it didn't crash. Now we're in 2022, so there's still that 7-year cycle pattern, and potentially by Q3 of this year, so maybe around September, we could be looking at a potential stock market crash. I'm going to be keeping an eye on that, how things develop. Obviously, nothing is guaranteed, but if the market does end up going higher, stock market and crypto market leading up into the middle of 2022, I would start to get very cautious because I do think there is then that potential for big downside. So that is something we're going to have to keep an eye on. The reason why I'm mentioning the stock market here too this year is because I do think that if the stock market is going to really go into a bear market, I'm not talking about a small correction, 20 or 30%. I'm talking about an extended maybe 1-2 years of sell-off more than 50%. If that's going to happen, it's likely going to affect the crypto markets too. So there is a correlation between the two. So keep that in mind. So January, we can see over here, 2015 to 2019 were all red. 2020, 2021 was green. So let's see what this year is going to bring us. So as always, let's look at last month's prediction for Bitcoin, and then let's look at the charts today and try and make a prediction moving forward.
So it is a little bit tricky with Bitcoin to say what's going to happen. So as long as we're staying above this level, above the $51,000 to $53,000, then it is still in a good uptrend. So I would say for this month's levels based off the monthly candle, I think it is completely possible to retest the 53 to 51,000 once again. Hopefully that would hold as support if it happens. Now, I would say on an extreme sell-off of some sort, there is a possibility for a wick down to 47,000. As long as we don't close below this 51 to 53,000 with the weekly close, I think everything is okay, right? So 51 to 53,000 on the downside as support is a potential, maybe a wick to 47 if things go crazy. That is kind of the lowest I'd like to see it. Then on the upside, I think it is still possible to once again retest the October 2021 high, which was about 66,000.
So as you saw, I was hoping that there would be more upside and a retest of that 66K. That did not happen. I said a retest of 53 to 51K would be possible, and on an extreme sell-off, maybe a wick to $47,000. Now, we did have a big liquidation event and an extreme sell-off similar to what we saw in May, and the low for that wick was just about 42,000. But as you can see, the month closed at 46,200. We're currently almost at 47,000. So basically that $47,000 level was important. And as you can see, that is where we are right now. So before making this month's predictions and maybe this year's predictions, I want to start out by looking at the large picture. So we're going to look at the yearly, then the 6-month, the quarterly, and then work our way to the lower time frames to be able to make a better estimate of what could happen this year. So if you look at the 12-month candles, okay, so each candle here represents 12 months or 1 year. That obviously just closed at the end of 31 December, right? And you can see we've actually had 3 consecutive green years, so 3 candles in a row, and it actually looks pretty decent to me. Like if you were looking at this as purely as a chart, we had this breakout from this triangle consolidation, we started a big rally, and even though we pulled back from the wick high of this candle, this is still completely possible that this year it just makes a huge big green candle next to it and continues to not even reach this all-time high, but even goes beyond that. That is still completely a possibility. However, on the downside, I would say that it's not impossible for a wick to retest the high of this body close over here. So that would be 29,300, which would line up with a retest of the May lows. And now we'll look at that also when we go into the lower time frames. It is a possibility that we do get a retest or maybe even a sweep of the May lows, so slightly below it before moving to new all-time highs. That is the possibility for the year, looking at these yearly candles. But I do think it is possible that we exceed the high of 2021. Changing it to a 6-month candle, so obviously that one just closed too every 6 months. It gives a little bit of a different picture, but you can see this still looks decently bullish to me. I mean, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 green candles in a row, and yes, we've had these wicks over here. It's still completely possible we make another wick here to the upside. But like I said, again, it is also possible to retest this level with a wick to the downside. So it is still possible that we see below $30,000, maybe slightly below $30,000 this year before we move higher and before we potentially see new all-time highs. And I would personally treat that as a huge buying opportunity if we do see sub $30,000 levels again, maybe briefly, obviously in combination with looking at the global stock markets, at the overall crypto market, at different indicators to look for confirmation of a reversal and a bottom there. But that would be a really, really good opportunity, in my opinion, not financial advice, if we get that situation. But maybe we don't, okay? Maybe it doesn't even happen. It's not guaranteed that it will, but I do think there is a possibility that it could. Changing it to the quarterly candle, so every candle is 3 months quarterly close, so that's always nice now because we've literally had all these different types of closes that give us insight into the charts in a different way on different time frames. So you can see this candle over here, it had a huge wick and pulled all the way back down. Now, with these kind of wicks, it's purely based on this wick. Both things could happen. It could have another wick right back up next to it in these next 3 months, meaning it could retest the highs, but it could also retest this level over here, sub 30,000. Personally, I would actually love to see it retest below 30,000, pull back up, and then continue the trend to the upside. That would be stronger than first going all the way up, unless of course it continues to the upside. But basically, it would be nice to see this wick down and then come back up and then continue the upside. That would create a stronger narrative for, you know, over $100,000 Bitcoin and a continuation there, rather than just a quick spike to the upside and then a reversal and maybe continued downside. And finally, changing this to the monthly view, which we obviously just had the monthly close. We had two negative red months over here in a similar way that we had it over here. So now there's basically two options based on this where we're going to go. We have either a bearish scenario or we have a bullish scenario, and we're going to have to look at which way the market is going to play out, which is more likely. So we have to look at what the chart is actually telling us without trying to be too biased with where we're at. So even though we have had these two negative red months, let's look at some of the bullish factors that we have over here. Okay, so I changed it to the daily chart so we can look at the bullish scenario in a bit more detail. You can see over here what we have is that we are still above this rising trend line. Okay, that's point number one. Then you could argue that we had a retest here of this breakout and we are still above that level. Then if you take this move from the low to the high, the 61.8 fib level retracement is also exactly at this point. So at this point in time, there is a lot of support around this specific level over here. You can see over here, so roughly between this, say 42,000 and 45,000, there is a lot of support. And you can even see when you pull this back to like this level over here, it acted as support over here, and then it was resistance, support. You can see a lot here and a lot of support over here. So the bullish scenario is still here, that we find a bottom, we find support over here. Maybe we retest the $42,000 low, but basically as long as we don't go below, say $40,000, then it's a good chance we are still building a base here and we can continue higher. And in that case, it might be possible that we see something like this, where we kind of create a similar situation as the May low over here, where we basically just move sideways for an extended period of time, maybe a couple more weeks, and we create a low, and then we start a new leg up, just like we did after July, after this consolidation was complete, and we started a big new leg up. This would be the bullish scenario, which would basically, if we're looking at this on a monthly chart, would basically mean we're going to see something similar like in May, where we see maybe a small body candle like this, or maybe right back up to 56K, something like that, and create, 1 or 2 months down here to create a new low and then move higher. And keep in mind that if you see this as a larger term trend, it is still a bullish trend. We created a high, we created a low, created a slightly higher high, and this would be a lower high. So that could still set us up for a new high later this year. That is the bullish scenario. Now let's run through the potential bearish scenario. And then one thing we must also consider is the bearish scenario. And that would basically be, in my opinion, a retest or a sweep of the May lows over here, like I said earlier. So maybe slightly below $30,000 once again. I do think if that were to happen, that it would set us up for much higher highs after that plays out. And it might actually be a more bullish thing to flush that market first, get all the hopium out, get everyone completely bearish, have the sentiment destroyed, all the hype that is in the NFTs and the meme coins and all that kind of stuff, that would all be washed out, and then we can start fresh with a new leg up. So that is a possibility. Reason why is if we look at what the chart is telling us, since $69,000, it has been creating lower highs. So this is a lower high, this is a lower high. So we have not yet created a new high. We're also creating lower lows, we are below a trend line over here, that is potentially something that could see, you know, we have this top over here. And of course, this is also a very important level between about 53 and 51,000. As you saw, I mentioned this level also last month. I said if that holds, things are looking good. But if we get below that and flip it to resistance, well, then it could be potentially a more bearish scenario. So right now we are still below it, and you can see it flipped to resistance right now. So until we get back above that, we could be looking at further downside. Now, actually, really what's happening is that Bitcoin is stuck in a range between about 40,000 on the downside and 53,000. So until it either breaks down below 40,000 or it gets back above 53,000, it's basically just trading sideways, and there isn't much to be said for making any types of long-term decisions right now, because we simply have to wait to see which way the market wants to go first. So, like I said, if we break below $40,000, I think we're going to get a retest or a sweep below the $30,000 level, below the May lows, and hopefully that should be a really good buying opportunity where we look for reversals, we look for setups just like we did in May, and then have a huge run following that to the upside. However, if we do get back above here, let's say it doesn't break down, it doesn't have some sort of big crash, the $40,000 level holds, maybe 42, maybe 45,000, and we get back above 53, we flip this back into support, then I think there's a chance that we can just run back up to the highs and maybe even new all-time highs. So I know this video has been long at this point already, so I'm not going to make it too much longer. I just wanted to explain the different scenarios, specifically as we are now in the new year. Basically, to summarize the thoughts of what I've just shared here in this analysis, is between 53 and 40,000, Bitcoin is in a range. Downside is 40,000, 42 to 40,000. The upside 51 to 53,000. Until we get a breakout, either way, there's not really clear direction. Now, it does look like there is a lot of potential support around this 42 to $45,000 level. So if we can build a base over here and maybe see 1 or 2 months around this level, there is a chance that we can continue going higher. If we break down, I'd be looking for the lows over here. And if we can hold and we can flip 53K, well, then maybe we see new all-time highs just in another leg up and a new rally higher. Now, because this video is pretty long already, I'm not going to go into Ethereum and Bitcoin dominance and all the other charts. I will actually make a separate video on that in the next week or so, and then look at that in a separate way. But the most important thing is still Bitcoin. Bitcoin leads the whole crypto market. So what Bitcoin is going to do, altcoins are most likely going to do. And sure, at some point, you know, altcoins could overperform and outperform Bitcoin. But in the same way, if Bitcoin is going to go up, it's going to be good for altcoins. If Bitcoin is going to go down, it's going to be bad for altcoins. So in general, we want to see where Bitcoin wants to take us. Does it want first to sweep the lows and have a retest of the May lows at the $30,000 level? Or are we going to start a new leg up here? Do we find support and do we just continue higher and then potentially just go into a blow off top phase? So I do think this month is going to be more telling at the end of this month what the direction is going to be. And until then, we just have to be patient. We have to be prepared. Okay, so it is good to mentally have a plan. What are you going to do if Bitcoin does end up going to $30,000 or $25,000 first before it goes to $100,000 plus? Okay, will your positions be able to sustain it? Will you be able to hold it that long? Are you going to be able to add to your positions? What are you going to do? Either way, you need to have that plan. If it doesn't happen, what are you going to do too? In that case, most of us are probably just going to hold and going to be okay with that. But you need to be prepared for both the bearish and the bullish scenario, because they really are both a possibility. So I hope you enjoyed this update. Again, make sure to subscribe to the channel below. Get on my email list. It's the first link in the description. Follow me on Instagram. Follow me on Twitter. All the links are in the description down below. This year is going to be a wild year. I'm going to give you a lot of updates, a lot of free info also on these various channels and mediums. So make sure to subscribe, like, and share. And I will see you in the next video. Once again, wishing you a very healthy, happy, and prosperous new year.